So this is the kind of general background section with some points highlighted specifically for clinicians. And this is the Harvard Medical School, which is a relatively impressive building. So why apply? I think that, Alex has already told you all about the history, but this is an international exchange. This is you going to the USA to study or conduct research or both. And clearly this is going to be good for your career. I need to tell you that. And clearly this is going to be good for meeting lots of interesting, wonderful people all from around Australia and the United States. And the Fulbright's not just about the name. There's some really tangible benefits that make this sort of work possible that wouldn't be possible otherwise. So clearly there is a financial component, which is very helpful. But I'll let you read the long list of benefits there yourself. The thing that I found most helpful, to be honest, is the wonderful Fulbright team. So for example, Tamara is one of the postdoctoral supporters, and I would not have got to the US without her support. The visas and all those processes they take work. And Fulbright is there with you every step of the way. And I would not have been able to do it without that sort of support. And I think if all of your clinicians like me, admin is one of those things that if there's any support available, we will gratefully receive it. Now, there's a few options in terms of what you can apply for. So I'm going to go through just a couple of select ones I think is going to be most relevant to our audience. So if you've done a PhD, then you're in that postdoctoral category, like Josh and myself. If you've not done a PhD, then you're going to be in that postgraduate category. If there are professors listening or distinguished chair category people listening, probably don't listen to me, probably ask someone else. But we'll go more into that postgraduate category now, because I think that'll probably be most people. So in that postgraduate category, this is where you can go to the US to do a master's degree for 1 or 2 years. So this is like what Britt's doing. Or if you are enrolled in an Australian PhD, you can go to the US to do part of it. And I think this is probably one that's going to be relevant to a lot of people who are in advanced training or early consultants. You can also theoretically go for your entire PhD, but fitting that in with training may take some thought, which we'll talk more about afterwards. Now, these are the categories. There is also kind of an extra part you can apply for, which is the Fulbright Future Scholarships. And really, they work very well for people in health fields. So it's just like an extra part of your application you can include. And I would recommend doing it. So in terms of eligibility and selection, Australian citizens, you have to have an undergraduate degree. So, does that exclude medical students? Not necessarily. Like if you're a postgrad med student, you've got an undergrad degree. You could still be a candidate, or an MD degree where you've got an undergrad. And then the selection criteria, it's going to be looking for a well-rounded person who's going to do well overseas and represent Australia well. Now, this sort of application process is clearly highly competitive. In some ways, it's similar to a lot of your job applications, or AT applications. So you'll need a CV, you need referees, you can have an interview. You're also going to need a project proposal, which is different. Then in some places, you'll need a letter of invitation from your institution. So having a really solid contact in the US for some of us, particularly if you're one of the postdocs, is vitally important. And then those Fulbright Future ones have a few extra components as well. Now, planning your timeline is where we get more relevant to clinicians again, because this takes planning ahead. So I think a worked example made this clearer for me. So theoretically, now I don't have the concrete dates for this year, so this is theoretical, don't hold me to it. Applications are opening very soon, say in the next month. Say you do your applications, you get them submitted by July this year. Say you have an interview in October this year, find out your results and say December this year, your placement will probably not start until August the following year. So this takes planning. This takes planning around your job and planning around your training. Because then you're over there for 4 to 8 months or so, and you come back and you have to have a job on the other side of it. Now, the Fulbright website is excellent, great source of information, really the place to start. But there's also some specific clinician considerations that we'll go through now. Now, I couldn't let you escape without my holiday pictures. So while you're in the US, watch out for American sport. So we've got NFL, baseball, F1 in Vegas, that was from the Bellagio, great fountains. Basketball, everyone takes up some sort of distance running for some reason. Don't let it hold you back. I'm no good at it. Winter sports, building snowmen. And also, Americans are fantastic people and they like embroidering things. So prepare for having your name on an item of clothing, or at least the brand of the institution you're attending. But serious considerations. So a question that often arises is, can I do clinical work on a Fulbright? And the answer is no, quite clearly. There's a document that you need to sign on Fulbright that says you will not be doing clinical work. I mean, there's pros and cons to that. So the next question is, do I need the United States medical licensing exam? And if you're not doing clinical work, the answer is no. You can go and do study, you can go and do research. If it's not clinical, you don't need the USMLE. Yeah, I've done the USMLEs. They weren't bad exams. They have some quite interesting questions, but you do it for a different reason. I mean, they're reasonably expensive to sit too. Now, I think a really important one is, can this be accredited? And the answer is yes, with a qualifier. So it's going to depend on your training program, and it is really important to sort this out ahead of time. So this means corresponding with your relevant college and asking them, because sometimes you might be taking the path less well traveled to do this. Sometimes there may not be too much precedent, and you want to be clear about this, because if you're going to go and do a 8-month placement, if you can get that accredited, you want it to be accredited. You're doing really interesting, important work for Australia, and your training should be recognised. Now, this is competitive. So people might ask, how much research or how senior do I have to be competitive? And it's really variable. So there are people who will apply with over 100 papers. There'll be people who are applying who have 1 paper. These people can all have very successful Fulbright experiences, and I wouldn't let your stage of research hold you back. Similarly, there are people who are, senior professors who will be applying, and people who could be PGY 1 or 2. You are all potential Fulbrighters who could really contribute. And really the way it fits in with training is different for everyone. And I think that's what we'll talk about now. So we've all done this at different stages in our training. I'll hand it over to Britt first to talk about how it's fitted in with her career so far. And then Josh and I will have a chat about it too.